Hi there, book reading friends. It's time for an update. I'm going to share with you what I've read so far, what I'm currently reading. I am not a traditional mood reader. When I say I'm in a mood when it comes to my reading, it usually means I can't decide on which genre I want to read most. So I usually get two or three books going. And eventually, what happens is one of them will capture my attention. I'll finish that one, and then I'll play the other two off of each other, and one of those will catch my attention. So eventually, I get back to just one book. But sometimes to keep myself from slumping, I have to get a few started just to see where my tastes take me. Also, I've got some larger books on my TBR for the month. Well, some of them don't have to be read this month, but I've got some larger books I want to read. So I'm trying to get some of those bigger books going while I'm reading things that are quicker. But to give you an idea of where I am on all my various readathons, year long, I've got the Backlist Bookathon. That's not a year long one. Arc Apocalypse, that's the year long one. I've got that one going. I've got the 52 books in 52 weeks, the Pop Sugar and Romanceopoly, which I've got one coming up for that, but I don't have anything for Romanceopoly on this particular update video, but it's still there. I'm still planning. It's still a thing. Backlist Bookathon finishes up this month on the 15th. It ran from January 15th to February 15th. Getting all of those books done is going to be a push, but I'm going to see how close I can get. Some of them are shorter, should be pretty quick reads for me. I'm also doing in the month of February Valentine's, which is just simply a share the book love readathon. Blackathon, which I'm doing the Instagram challenge, which is posting pictures every day from the 15th through the 21st. But I'm actually also reading all the books I'm posting pictures of. So I'm spreading those out over the month because there's no way I'll get them all read in a week. Just won't happen. I'm also doing the To Be Continued readathon, which is simply getting yourself through some series that you want to read. That one's the challenging one because you have to read all the books in level 1 before you can claim any books in level 2. So I'm on the last book in level 1. I'm proud of myself. So yeah, I think that's everything I'm doing right now, currently. This one, the first thing I read in February, I figured I was going to jump in. If you're like me, I love a good list, but I also love to feel like I've accomplished something. I love crossing things off of lists. One of the prompts for Valentine's was to read, the prompt was called Picture Perfect, read a graphic novel. So I just went looking. I don't have a lot of background knowledge of background novels. I've come across a few, usually because I'm doing a reading challenge that asks for me to read one. One series I loved. There was another one that I'm still not sure. I didn't hate it. There was another series I've only read the first book from, but I liked it. I was just a little concerned that it was marketed to kids because it didn't seem like something a little bit over them. So I read Mouse, the first book of Mouse, which is a graphic novel retelling of the author's family's experiences with World War II. I've also read the first chunk of Monstrous, I think 3 volumes of that, which I loved. So I went looking. I went online and went to where you're supposed to go to recommendations from people who know far better than me. And I found several, and I decided to do this one, and I'm so glad I did. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so I intend to go through the rest of the series here pretty quickly. It's called Saga. This is volume 1. Basically, the storyline is there is a world. This planet is inhabited, and its moon is inhabited, and for whatever reasons, they hate each other. But rather than destroy their own living spaces, they've outsourced their war to other planets. So we'll just go destroy where other people live rather than destroy where we live. She is from the planet. I think he's from the moon. They end up falling in love. If you could see from the picture, she's nursing an infant. They have a child. Every faction wants them caught. Most factions want the 2 adults dead. They want the baby. So talk about a cliffhanger. I mean, we're just kind of them still trying to get away, to get safe, to keep their child safe. They just want to be left alone. They don't want anything more to do with the conflict. But that's just not going to happen. People are not going to leave them be. So I enjoyed it a lot. And like I said, I found out it was available on Kindle Unlimited. So I think I'm just going to kind of meander my way through the rest of the series. The next thing I read was from Blackathon. It'll be the first picture I post on Instagram. I loved this author's writing so much. I went out and ordered a signed paperback from her of another one of her books. This one's called Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. Let me try to come in from this way and see. There we go. Sun's making things difficult here. Zenny inherits her aunt's estate, only she finds out her aunt isn't really her aunt. There's big family secrets that get revealed. And her aunt is worth millions. Like this 20-something elementary school teacher inherits millions. Just one stipulation. She has to marry this guy that sort of served as her aunt's handyman. His name's Mason. He's a Scottish American. He immigrated here from Scotland. There's baggage from his family as well. The aunt, Sable, entices Mason to marry Zenny by promising to pay off his student loans and give him $100,000 to pay off some other debts. They go through with it, and of course it's a romance, so you know they'll fall in love. They'll stay together. You know, I loved the way Rebecca Weatherspoon wrote these characters. Zenny is feisty and fierce and sassy and definitely in charge of her own life and plans. Her girl gang is just such a fun bunch of people to watch her interact with. It is the second book in a series. The first book in the series is entitled Rafe, but it's a standalone. Like, they refer to the characters from the first book, but not having read the first book, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I didn't feel like I was lost ever. But like I said, I loved Rebecca Weatherspoon's writing so much. I went out and bought, I can't even think of the title of the book. I just know it's Black Cowboys, and I'm here for that. So I love a good cowboy romance. So we're in. So I'm excited about that one. That'll be fun to read. The next book that I read, this series just keeps getting better. I'm dying a little inside. Shark's Pride, which is book 2 in the Shark's Edge series. I discovered the series when I won the first book in the series from Bookish First. If you've never gone to Bookish First and you like to get books before they come out, you like to read and review arcs, you go in, there's usually 3 or 4 books posted every Monday. You read an excerpt, quick little sneak peek of the book, you write a review of that excerpt, and then they decide whether or not to let you have a full copy of it. So I won a full copy of Shark's Edge, book 1. I was like, yeah, sure, it'll be fun. I fell in love. Angel Payne and Victoria Blue wrote a beautiful story. I love the characters. I love the plot. I love everything about it. And they keep holding off on the happily ever after. I'm a little peeved. Major upsetting cliffhanger at the end of this book. Thankfully, I already own book 3. This one covered, oh my gosh, I have it on my Pop Sugar and my 52 Books in 52 Weeks Readathon for the year. It also is in my Valentine's reading lists under, let me get to my list and find it. A recent ad. I've only owned this for a couple of months, so this one I counted as my recent ad. And it also was on my to be continued. Now, I discovered you can read the books in to be continued out of order. You just can't claim the points for them until you've read the lower levels. So this one, I can't claim the points for it yet. I will be able to eventually. But this is, I'm playing a little fast and loose with this. This is the grand finale because it's not the grand finale. That's the third one that I'm going to read. That's the third book that I'm going to read. This is my favorite author. That's such a hard pick because I have a lot of authors I really like, but I figure I've fallen so in love with the series and become obsessed with finishing it. I'm going to go ahead and claim this as favorite author. I am going to read the third book in the series, also for the TBC, the To Be Continued Readathon. I'm going to count that as my final book in the series because Sebastian and Abby's story gets wrapped up in the third book. There is a fourth book in the series, but it focuses on his best friend, Grant. So it's not about Sebastian and Abby. So as far as I'm concerned, Sebastian and Abby's story, book 3 in the Shark's Pride, or the Shark's Edge, which is called Shark's Rise, that's the final book of Sebastian and Abby's story. So I'm going to count that as the grand finale, especially because I don't think the fourth book will be out by the time this is done. So technically right now it is the last book in the series as it exists. The next one that I read is an old friend that I brought back out. I've said before, I'm trying to get through Patricia Cornwell's Kay Scarpetta series, get all caught up on that. So she's showing up a lot on my readathons and my TBRs this year. Patricia Cornwell's from Potter's Field. There we go. Get the sun out of the way and it works. Picked this up. There is a used bookstore, book and game store near where my daughter lives in Davenport, Iowa. And so I can pick up books super, super cheap there. This one I actually think I might have ordered off of Amazon used, but I have a bunch of her books now because they're hardbacks too. I get them for like $1 or $2 at this used bookstore. So luckily, it's going to make it really easy for me to catch up. Since some of these books are old enough, I'm having a hard time finding them in my library. That's bad. But that covered, oh my gosh, that was on my Pop Sugar and my 52 books in 52 weeks. Both of those call for you to read books about women involved in STEM careers or women in the medical field or books in the medical field. So there's a lot of those strong women characters. Her books cover that because the main character is a medical examiner and a lawyer. So definitely works in STEM, definitely a strong female character. The last book that I read was another ebook, and this is book 3 in a series. Showed up on my to be continued top. I think I put this as, I changed up some of my TBRs just because of book lengths and timing and things. I think I made this the top of my TBR. I swear I know where this list is. I really do. No, that's the contemporary Readathon. That hasn't started yet. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. This, I think I made it the top. No, this is not the top of my TBR. This is the middle of the series. This is book 3 out of, I think, 6. The 6th one just came out. Wardens of Starlight by Rebecca Main. It's book 3 in the Soulmark series. In the first book, you have a witch and a wolf shifter who share a soul mark. This is more than just fated mates. This is, they have a birthmark that is exactly the same shape as another person's bookmark. This is your soulmate. And when you find each other and you touch the soul mark, there's this weird, bizarre connection that happens. The wolves are prepared for it because they've been taught about it all their lives. It's their mates that are always ready to deal with it. The really interesting thing in this book is it's Keenan's story. He's been in the other 2 books that I read. He meets a girl who is a warden of Starlight. The wardens are raised to believe that everything supernatural is evil. Everything supernatural is out to destroy the human race, and so it's their job to destroy everything supernatural. Well, she begins to find out that maybe she hasn't been taught quite totally correctly, but she spent her entire life trying to hide her soul mark. She knows she has one. It's on her hip. So she like added a tattoo to it to make it look like the soul mark was a part of the tattoo. But she, in a freak occurrence, runs into Keenan, who shares her soul mark. She touches his and discovers, oh crap, she will be exiled or executed by the wardens if they find out, by the council, if they find out she has a soul mark at all, much less that she has found her soulmate. So she has a tough decision to make. The Adolphus Wolf Pack, which is the pack that the Soulmark series focuses on, they've taken some rather important relics to try to protect them from the Zelf Wolf Pack, which are evil and trying to destroy the world, basically. They've hired a vampire to work with them. One of Cassie's friends gets changed. One of her friends gets changed into a vampire. So it's kind of it's a complex book. There's a lot of supernatural powers involved. The witches from the first 2 books are still involved. So the characters from the first 2 books still show up, but they're not the focus, which is kind of nice. Unlike some of the other series I've read, you can get the story if you haven't read the first 2 books, but it is helpful to understand because the women in those stories tend to come in and help talk the new female through what's going on. So unlike the other stories where one was a witch who didn't know anything at all about soul marks and the other one was just a normal average human, nothing special about her, who definitely didn't believe in soul marks, this book is a woman who knows about them and believes in them and believes that it's a sign that she's cursed and believes that there's some sort of evil darkness living in her. So it's an interesting story to watch her have to come to grips with the fact that maybe she's been lied to about what supernatural folks are really like all of her life. So I am not a typical mood reader. What'll happen is I'll see all kinds of books on my TBR that I want to read and I'm all excited about reading, and I have a hard time picking which one to read next. So usually what I do is I start multiples just to see, because what will happen is I'll read a couple of chapters in one, a couple of chapters in another, maybe a third, and I'll keep doing that until one of them will finally grab my attention and say, don't put me down till you're done. And then I finish it. It's exactly what's happened here. I actually do have 3 going. This one, I also started this one because you'll notice it's a little bit longer. A little bit more to read here. This is Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. It's a part of the Lunar Chronicles. I read Cinder last year. Loved it. I'm looking forward to getting through this one. They are sort of apocalyptic, heavy techno retellings of fairy tales. Cinder was about Cinderella. This is, the book starts with a girl looking for her grandma and meeting a guy named Wolf. Red Riding Hood, here we come. So I'm excited to see this story play out again. I think there are 6, if I remember, in the series that Marissa Meyer has written. So really enjoyed the first one. Looking forward to this one. That's on the to be continued, and I think it's also on one of my year-long readathons for something. This next one is part of a trilogy that was reissued, republished by the author. I read a book of his that I believe is a companion series to this series, and put a review up, and he saw it and he asked me if I wanted to read and review the re-release of the Atlantic Island trilogy. I said absolutely. This is book 2. It's on the top of my TV. It's fulfilling the top of my TBR prompt on the to be continued. I think it's also published before 2020, January 2020. It's also on my backlist bookathon prompt, which I'll get that done and off here soon. I'm just over halfway through, so I'll get it done this weekend. I think that might be it. I don't think it's on my Valentine's. Nope, it's not. So, Rising Tide by Frederick Chernoff is book 2 in the Atlantic Island trilogy. In book 1, a bunch of people vacationing and living in Atlantic City find the city suddenly caught in this weird bubble, and the world isn't like what they thought it was, and they call it the event. A dictator tries to rise to power, and a bunch of teenagers lead a rebellion to get rid of him. But at the end of the first book, the dictator and a young man named Theo, who was sort of the face of the rebellion, they call him the savior, vanish and are believed to be dead. Theo didn't die. He just ended up in our reality. And some mysterious person comes to him and says, you've got to get back there and stop what happened because it's destroying the megaverse. Every world and every reality is going to implode. But then someone else tells him, no, you just need to get back to the reality after the event, back to Atlantic Island, and help. So he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what to believe. I'm kind of in the middle of the story and captivated. Because there are a couple of different story threads that I've had to try to follow to get Theo back to the Atlantic Island location. Rebels are gathering power and force and followers, and so something's about to happen. There's a third book, and then I read a book called The Magic Book by Frederick Chernoff, which I believe is sort of what happens after this trilogy, I think. So I'll be reading this whole trilogy, and there's an anthology of short stories as well. The whole trilogy is on my year-long TBR, so I'm finishing up. Like I said, I'm about halfway through Rising Tide right now. The other book that I have started and I'm working my way through is also a part of my TBC. Holy cow, I wanted this one to be the top of my TBR, but it's so intense. I have to put it down every so often and breathe because it's incredibly action-packed. Conscience by Cecilia London. It is book 2 in the Bellator saga. Oh, buddy. Lots of flashback. At the beginning of the book, the main character has been detained. Well, she's in the hospital. She was hurt. And this doctor is going to try to help her get out. And they don't succeed. And she's considered a traitor to a president who's become a dictator. And the country, as we know it, has gone completely crazy sideways. It's not a democracy. It's not a representative democracy anymore. It's not a republic anymore. It's become a dictatorial, tyrannical existence, and anybody who stands up against the tyrant is silenced pretty quickly. So in the current situation, she's imprisoned, separated from the man she loves, who I believe is her husband. But then a lot of the story is full in flashback. We see how we got here. We see how she and this man end up together, falling in love. So it's like a 6-book series. And she warned me when I read the first one back in December that it didn't ease up anytime soon. It didn't get happy anytime soon. And like I said, I was going to make this one the top of my TBR, but I can't read it fast enough to do that because it's emotionally draining to read, which I love. Like I walk away from the book and feel like I need to go sing a happy song to feel better. I love that Cecilia London is able to draw out really raw, intense emotion. So got this one reading. Honestly, Rising Tide will be the one I finish first, which then will finish off all of my level 1 books for the to be continued readathon, which means I can start moving on to the level 2 books, which I'm super excited about. So that's where we are. I will be putting up another video probably early next week, maybe Wednesday, because I'm doing the Contemporary-a-thon, which starts on Monday. Now, the nice thing is everything in that overlaps with another readathon I'm doing. So I don't have to add any actual books to my TBR. I'm just getting credit for things I was already going to read anyway. So I'd love to hear down in the comments what you're reading right now, what readathons you're participating in. Maybe what's your most favorite genre to read and your least favorite. Just share your book views with me in the comments. Talk to you later.